Everything is going to hell down here in Texas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Big Bad Bob is with you. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast, baby. Where research comes to shine and myths come to die. Be right there. Yeah, you damn right, lady. Something's going to hell down there in Texas. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is your boy, Rob Clark. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast, and this is the 199th episode. We're on the precipice of epicosity when it comes to JFK Assassination Podcast. It's hard to believe it's been 8 years of doing this show, and we're almost to that massive number. Technically, this is the 200th show, but it's not number 200. So we'll just go with that. Anyway, happy Saturday, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the Texas School Book Depository and what exactly was going on there. The people, the players, the movers, the shakers, the events of November 22nd, 1963 in that building, Lee Harvey Oswald, and a whole other cast of characters. And we're going to try to figure this thing out. I don't think we're going to, but damn it, we're going to try. We're going to try. I'm going to try for you people. So let's start off with the building superintendent, shall we? Now, on November 22nd, 1963, Roy Truly gave a statement to the FBI and states this: Roy Truly, warehouse manager of the Texas School Book Depository, advised that the Texas School Book Depository has occupied the building at 411 Elm Street for only a few months. Prior to this time, the building was occupied by a wholesale grocery company engaged in supplying restaurants and institutions, and during the course of their occupancy, the floors of the building became oil-soaked, and this oil was found to be damaging the stock of the School Book Depository stock thereon. In view of this, they had instituted a process of covering the floors with sheets of plywood. This process was being performed by the regular warehouse employees whenever they had slack periods of work. The southwest corner of the 6th floor had been cleared of stock in order that plywood could be laid over this floor, and the southwest corner was consequently empty of stock on November the 22nd, 1963, making the windows to the southwest corner of the building readily accessible. Now, what this means, I do believe, of course, they did have another warehouse at the state building, which is where Bill Frazier parked his car that morning, and walked over to the School Book Depository. And we've talked about this on end of witnesses that saw this happen. And a lot of the book publishing company employees were previously in the Dow Tex building. Um, they had only recently started using this Elm Street building to fill orders, as Mr. Truly says, for only a few months. So, at the time of the shooting, November 22nd, is he's saying this. So, a few months, it was 3 months, roughly, 3 or 4 months. And of course, Oswald was hired at the school book depository in the middle of October, I believe, October 14th, 15th, somewhere in that neighborhood. So he's still a relatively new employee, but this is a relatively new building, a new environment for the company. Um, and as Mr. Truly says, the floors of the building became oil soaked, and this was seeping up through the boxes of school books and damaging the books. Um, and the southwest corner of the sixth floor had been cleared of stock. So if you're going to clear out areas of the floor which normally house stacks and stacks of books, what are you going to do? You want to clear out an area. You're going to be stacking boxes, around the edge of the perimeter of where you're working, thus creating the so-called sniper's nest. Now, everybody likes to say that, oh, well, Oswald created this sniper's nest so nobody could see him and nobody could know that he was up there, see what he was doing, yada, yada. But that's not the case. The work dictated how the boxes were stacked up there. And it just so happened that it created a convenient, what we call it in the hunting world, as a hide. Someplace where you could sit and not be seen and wait for your prey to come trolloping along and boom, right? So, awfully convenient place up there on the sixth floor for a supposed sniper to be laying in wait, right? So, back to Roy Truly. Came across an interesting HSCA interview conducted with Roy Truly, and you're going to love this one. Let me get my Roy Truly voice ready. So before we get into the interview here, there's a notation that Roy is wiry, short, long-waisted, with a queer, jerky walk. He is bespectacled and an incessant smoker of Chesterfields and Cools. So he not only smokes cigarettes, he smokes menthols as well. And he's incessantly smoking. Since 1941, he has attended the Oak Cliff Methodist Church Sunday school. I guess he felt that was important to throw in there. So here we go. Mr. Roy Truly with his wiry, short, long-waisted, queer, jerky walk. Here we go. I felt that President Kennedy was on his way to being one of the most controversial of the United States presidents. I read and approved of the Dallas News, and the U.S. World Report was in objective. David Lawrence is the columnist I approve of most strongly. I didn't like Kennedy's internationalism, or Eisenhower's for that matter. I don't believe the races were meant to blend, but I'm not like those people in Mississippi or Alabama. I treat my N words, and he did say it, and they did type it, as well as my white boys. I treat my N words as well as my white boys. He makes the point that his wow. He makes the point that his N words are lazy and reckless spenders, folks. And this interview's in 1978, some 15 years after the Civil Rights Movement. Okay. So this guy's clearly stuck uh, in the mindset of the past. On November the 22nd, I don't think half of the boys would have even gone out to see the parade if it hadn't have been lunchtime. I'm conservative, like most Texans. This building has been here about 50 years. First, it was for John Deere plows. Then it was a fancy wholesale grocery. We leased it in 1961. Before that, it was used as an office space for a railroad. That is a additional comment. There are two elevators. The east one, who can't ring for it, it has to be hand operated. The west one won't move unless both gates are down. Another insertion. Lady Bird called the building red. Really, it is orange or perhaps tan. Maybe Bird meant that the Dow Tex Red building just across from Houston Street to the right. On November the 22nd, I was out by that bright orange mark on the corner curb. There was just a thin screen of people in front of me and the man who was standing with me. The driver of the presidential car didn't realize how sharp a turn he would have to make on them, and he had to stop, or he would have run into the curb. Then he continued. As soon as the car was free of the foliage of that oak tree, I heard what I thought was the sound of a giant goddamn firecracker. Then I heard two more shots after that. The presidential car swerved to the left and seemed to stop. Then it took off like a shot. I thought the shots came from the overpass, and when the policeman came in the building, I thought he was headed for the roof to get a better view. That's what those N-words on the fifth floor thought. And one of them had heard the halls from the gun. The shells drop on the floor above them. That's three. Three N-words so far. We're just on the first page. With the policeman, I ran through the shipping room to the elevator, but the elevators didn't work. I shouted, "Hey, turn this elevator loose!" Which is what we always shout. Nothing happened. So the policeman and I raced up to the second floor, and I was on my way to the third floor when I realized that the policeman wasn't with me. He said he had seen a shirt in the caddy corner door, half glass, which leads to the lunchroom. I went in there after him, and I saw that he was holding a gun on Oswald. He said, "This boy work here?" he asked. I said, "Yes," and on up we went. Later, we learned that Oswald went in and talked to Mrs. Reed, a secretary, or rather, she did the talking. She said, "Isn't it terrible?" And he mumbled something and went down the front stairs and out to Elm, apparently. And there's another comment on here that says, at the police station, Lee admitted he went out of the building this way, right out the front door. We were then redoing the sixth floor. The old floor was oily and stains on books. So we were putting down this new battleship gray plywood. The books were all moved to the front of the floor. We were doing a little bit of flooring at the time. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And the book cartons were on two-wheel trucks. Another note, overhead naked light bulbs. The walls of white brick are dingy. The stairway is cramped, and in the rear, diagonally opposite the window from which the shots were fired. Oswald puts cartons to his left so people in the red brick building wouldn't see him across Houston Street. The person who got the best view of him was Howard Brennan. The rifle, though we didn't know it, was in between the cartons on the 6th floor, and we dashed right past it. That is where Oswald had dropped it. It was to his left as he was heading for the stairs. And there's another note saying the roof. To the rear side near Houston Street, there is a curious structure, now the vestigial. It resembles an enormous double-sided boxcar and is of a corrugated iron down. Sorry, this copy sucks. Within there is an aging boiler. Yeah, so whatever that means. After the assassination, I had a terrible reaction. Lord, I had insomnia. My stomach was tied up in a knot. I had a nausea and the diarrhea. I called my doctor and he put me on tranquilizers, thank God. Sunday, I went to Sunday school and told them all I knew about the case. I came home and my wife had the TV on. She was saying, Lord, what are we coming to? They have just shot Oswald. Then I watched the replay on television and I thought it must be a plot. My head was whirling. A nigger asked Oswald if he wanted to go down for the parade from the 5th floor. Now, I said that word because it's technically not the N word. A nigger asked Oswald if he wanted to go down for the parade from the 5th floor, and Oswald said he wanted to get a carton of books. He asked the colored boy, oh, now he's a colored boy. He asked the colored boy to leave the gate down for him so he could call the east elevator. The west one is the one that is hand operated. The week before Easter, I went to Washington, D.C. and drove down by the Georgetown house, but I didn't know whether Mrs. Kennedy wanted to see me or not. I guess I suffered more than anybody but her. Are you fucking kidding me, Roy Truly? Nobody before you ever asked about my politics. I think the Dallas News has always been conservative. The stopwatch timing shows that it took the police officer between 1 minute and 45 seconds and 2 minutes to get to the lunchroom, and that Oswald made it in about 1 minute and 15 seconds. And there you have your Roy Truly HSCA interview, narrated by your boy, Bob. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Where's my clapping? Ah, yes, there it is. That's much better. God bless. Thank you. Thank you. No, you're too kind. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Now, even these old Warren Commission fellas knew something was a little fucky in the school book depository. And we have this memorandum sent to Messieurs Ball, Beelan, and Craig from Junior Counsel Norman Redley. This states, this memorandum results from a discussion between Mr. Beelan and myself on March 24th, following Roy Truly's testimony. Roy Truly has testified that when he and Patrolman Baker ran to the rear of the 1st floor, neither elevator was there. Truly pressed the button for the west elevator and shouted up the shaft, asking that the elevator be released. It was necessary to do this since the elevator would not work if the gate was open. Once the gate was closed, the elevator would come if the button was pressed. Truly did not try to get to the east elevator because this operates only by hand and can be run only by a person who is in it. Truly claims that he looked up the shaft and saw that both elevators were together on the same floor. As part of this picture, we should also remember that approximately 15 minutes before the assassination, Jarman and Norman took the west elevator up to the 5th floor. Truly and Baker started climbing the stairs no more than 2 or 3 minutes after the assassination. Mr. Beelan timed it at less than 2 minutes. At each landing, Truly and Baker looked to see whether an elevator was present, and they did not see one. They certainly would have noticed the west elevator because this was most directly in line with their vision at each landing. It was only when they reached the 5th floor that they saw an elevator, but surprisingly enough, it was the east elevator which they saw, the one that needs somebody in it to operate it. The west elevator was not present on the 5th floor, where Truly thought he had seen it from below. Did I say that right? They saw an elevator. No, the east elevator is the one that somebody has to be in to work it. Okay, so when they got up to the 5th floor, the only one there was that east elevator, the one that needs somebody to work it. The west elevator was not present on the 5th floor, where Truly thought he had seen it from below, and where it could have been expected to be found since Jarman and Norman had taken it there to have their lunch. Curiouser and curiouser. Truly, testified further that he and Baker took the east elevator, that's the one you got to be in, to the 7th floor from the 5th floor. That west elevator was not on the 7th floor when they reached that floor. He cannot say that the west elevator was not on the 6th floor at this time. Truly and Baker then looked around on the roof and took the east elevator back down from the 7th floor. On the way down, he noticed that the west elevator was on the 5th floor again. There are several alternative explanations for the movements of the west elevator. First, let us assume that Truly was correct in his first observation that the east and west elevators were both on the 5th floors of approximately 2 minutes after the assassination. This means that by the time Truly and Baker had reached the 5th floor, it was gone. We know that someone would have had to close the gate on this elevator during this period because Truly was unable to get the elevator by pressing the button when he was on the 1st floor. This person then might have taken the elevator up to the 6th floor while Truly and Baker were running up the stairs. At this moment, however, we have Jarman, Williams, and Norman who say that they didn't hear any elevator. Moreover, they never admitted that anyone else was on the floor. It's also possible that someone got on the elevator on the 5th floor at this time and headed down while Truly and Baker were running up the stairs. Here again, Jarman, Norman, and Williams didn't hear anyone, and it is quite unlikely that Truly and Baker would not have noticed the elevator moving as they reached each landing. While it is possible, therefore, that a worker moved the west elevator either up or down from the 5th floor during this period, we don't know the name of such a worker, and we have the problem of Jarman, Williams, and Norman, who have to be questioned again as to whether they heard anyone on the floor and whether they heard the elevator move. The second possible assumption is that the elevator was not on the 5th floor at all, but was actually on the 6th floor with the gate open at the time that Truly rung for it on the 1st floor. This would mean that someone on the 6th floor would have had to close the gate and take the elevator down either directly to the 5th floor where Truly saw it after he came back down from the roof, or to some lower floor and then back up to the 5th floor. In either case, it would mean that someone got on the west elevator on the 6th floor just a very short time after Oswald left the floor via the stairway. Significantly, one of the investigations appears to have turned up none of the investigations appears to have turned up anyone who admits to being on the west elevator at this time. Now, what's this saying is, folks, that okay, Truly and Baker go to call the elevator. Truly looks up the shafts, and it looks like both elevators are on the same floor. Okay, maybe he was mistaken. Maybe. Maybe the west elevator was on the sixth floor, and maybe the east elevator was on the fifth. Um, if that's the case, then Oswald's not the shooter. Oswald's not the shooter. It's pretty simple. Because after he looked up there, he sees, or they encounter, allegedly, Oswald in the second floor lunchroom, according to them. So if the elevator was on the sixth floor and then it moved back to the fifth floor, something crazy is going on here. Because Oswald wouldn't have had time to take the elevator down to the second floor and then send it back up to the sixth floor. And so somebody had to be on the sixth floor to get it down to the fifth floor. Anyway, it's very confusing. Um, but the Warren Commission has a big problem on their hands. You know, either Oswald came running down the stairs from the sixth floor and yet wasn't seen or heard by anyone on those stairs, and then he magically appears on the second floor in the lunchroom, or he takes the elevator down to the second floor to get a coat, which is not possible considering where these elevators were and where they were located at different times, according to Roy Truly. And he is the building superintendent, you know, so yeah, hence the reason for the memorandum here. Truly thinks that Doherty was working there at this time. I know that Messrs. Ball and Beeling planned to question Doherty, who would have to explain why he was up there working so soon after the shots were fired. A previous memorandum on Doherty, written by Mr. Eisenberg, raises questions about Doherty, which should be looked into on the next trip to Dallas. If Oswald was not acting alone, it is very likely that an employee of the Schoolbook Depository building was his accomplice. It is also possible that an employee of the Schoolbook Depository might have information and for some reason be afraid to come forward. Through persistent questioning on such matters of the elevator locations, we might be able to locate the person or persons who may know more than they are telling. I have discussed this matter with Mr. Beelan, and he shares my feeling that this matter will be the subject of questioning when Messrs. Bell and Beelan travel to Dallas again. So yeah, them boys got a problem, slight problem. And once again, just to clarify the elevator situation, the east elevator could only work with somebody inside. You couldn't call for that elevator. Like if you took it up to the fourth floor, fifth floor, and you got off, somebody has to go up and get it or to get back down from that floor. The west elevator, as long as the gate was shut, it could be called. So if somebody took it up to the seventh floor, got out, closed the gate, okay, when Roy Truly came in on the first floor, he could have called for that elevator, and it would have, it would have came down. So obviously the gate was up on the elevator. So whoever took it up never closed the gate or had plans to hop back on it very quickly. Now, it seems to me that the fifth floor of the Schoolbook Depository at the time of the shooting is a very interesting place. And we'll get into why here in a minute. But again, if the west elevator was on the sixth floor and there was someone shooting from the sixth floor window, and when Truly and Baker went in and called for it, it didn't come, and from below it kind of looked like it might have been on the same floor as the east elevator, which is the fifth floor, but maybe it was on the sixth. So maybe somebody who was up there hopped on the elevator after stashing the rifle and rode it on down to wherever, first floor maybe, got out and exited the building. And then somebody on the fifth floor, but it had to be somebody that knew about the elevator. It had to be able to be called in, because you couldn't just open the gate and leave, because it would have, the elevator would have been stuck on the first floor. But when Truly and Baker came back down from the seventh to the fifth, both elevators were there. Very weird shit going on here. Very weird. Um, Now, of course, uh, this case has been investigated many times, and in August of 1967, during Garrison's investigation, I guess he dispatched some investigators to Dallas, and they found William Shelley and Roy Truly. They interviewed Roy Truly, who said, "Never saw Oswald with a beard, always neat and clean shaven. He was a good worker. He was standing directly behind Lovelady. There is no question in his mind about the number of shots fired. There were 3 shots fired. He could not tell the direction from which the sounds came." Now, the first time I read that, I said, all right. He's talking about Oswald. Never saw Oswald with a beard, always neat and clean shaven. He was a good worker. And then he says, he was standing directly behind Lovelady. Is he referring to Oswald? Or is he referring to himself? Hmm. And then the interview with Mr. Roy Truly says, Oswald was hired to work at the book depository on October 16th. Well, there's your date, folks. Mr. Truly hired another man at the same time that he hired Oswald. One of these 2 men was to be assigned to the other building 2.5 blocks away. And it was surely by chance that Oswald was kept here at the depository building. When Oswald was given the job, the parade route had not been decided. It was decided 72 hours before the parade. Oswald made practice of not going out to lunch. He read about the Lincoln assassination and about the Kennedy family. He never got personal phone calls. I, Mr. Roy Truly, never saw Jack Ruby in my life. Oswald had placed rows of book cartons in front of the window about 3 foot high to block a view. This side of the building was pretty crowded with the book cartons, as on the other side of the building, some of the boys had been working laying a plywood floor. I was standing directly under the window from where the shots were fired, and when the presidential car made the horseshoe turn onto Elm Street, it almost hit the curb on the right-hand side. Had to apply the brakes, and it practically came to a dead stop 2 or 3 feet from the curb. The first shot was fired at the time that the car reached the 4th white marker, the second between the 5th and the 6th marker, and the third shot right at the 8th marker. There was more time elapsed between the first and second than the third shot. I went upstairs with a policeman and found Oswald on the 3rd floor with a Coke in his hand. Some lunch papers, chicken bones, was found on the 6th floor. Were not Oswald's, but a new employee, Bonnie Williams. No one was allowed in the building until the Warren Commission had a chance to go through it. Well, that's horse shit. Yeah. So interesting here that. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all day. God bless you. Then he says, I went upstairs with the policeman and found Oswald on the 3rd floor. 3rd floor. 3rd floor. 3rd floor. Being the building superintendent and being 4 years after the assassination, you'd think that you'd fucking remember which floor you saw Oswald, allegedly, drinking a Coke on. in your own building after all the hullabaloo. But that's just me, you know. What do I know? Now, at the end of that lovely interview with Mr. Roy Truly, he mentions a new hire named Bonnie Williams. What does Bonnie Williams say, folks? On November the 22nd, 1963, when he gives an affidavit, it says, I went to work at 8 a.m. this morning. I worked on the 6th floor today with Mr. Bill, a Danny, Charles, and a Billy Lovelady. Charles was outside and couldn't get back in, so I guess he went home. We worked up until 10 minutes to 12. Then we went downstairs. We rode the elevator to the first floor and got our lunches. I went back on the 5th floor with a fellow called Hankin Jr. I don't know his last name. Just after we got on the 5th floor, we saw the president coming around the corner on Houston from Main Street. I heard 2 shots. Okay? I heard 2 shots. It sounded like they came from just above us. We ran to the west side of the building. West side? We didn't see anybody. We looked down and saw people running and hollering, and we stayed there, and in a little while, some officers came up. They left, and then we took the elevator to the 4th floor. We stayed there a while and then went on out. Lee Oswald was there when I got to work this morning at 8 a.m. He fills orders and goes all over the building. I didn't see Oswald any more that I remember after I saw him at 8 a.m. I recognized him just a few minutes ago when the officers brought him in the office. Oswald had been working at the Texas School Book Depository for about 6 weeks. Signed, Bonnie Ray Williams. Now, he states on here, I recognized him just a few minutes ago when the officers brought him in the office. Now, the reason Bonnie Williams saw Oswald at the police headquarters after he was arrested is because Bonnie Williams, along with Danny Arce and Bill Shelley, were, what do you call it? Arrested? Detained, maybe? And brought down to the Dallas Police Headquarters. And we have pictures of this occurring, where they're shoved in the back of a police car and hauled off to, uh, police headquarters or jail, whatever you want to call it, where they were questioned. Yeah, you heard me right. Also on November the 22nd, we have a report from FBI agent C. Ray Hall, special agent of the FBI. The 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository Building, 411 Elm, Dallas, Texas, is used entirely for storage of textbooks. The windows on the south side of the building reach from about 1 foot from the floor up to a height of 6 feet. Unsub, that's unknown subject, apparently stood in the southeast corner of the building on the 6th floor. Textbooks had been stacked up to a height of almost 4 feet, about 3 feet away from the 2 southeast windows so as to conceal anyone in the corner. And thus the sniper's nest is born. But they had actually been stacked up there so they could lay plywood. Found in this corner by Dallas police were 3 empty rifle hulls, an empty Dr. Pepper bottle, an empty package of Viceroy cigarettes, 1 piece of fried chicken, and some chicken bones, along with a small brown paper sack that the chicken had been in. some brown wrapping paper of the type used in this building, sealed with brown gummed paper, in which the rifle had apparently been wrapped in. A second row of textbooks had been stacked up about 3 feet back of the first row, away from the window, leading down to the next windows to the west of the 2 windows in the southeast corner of this floor. The only exit from this floor are stairs, located in the northwest corner of the floor. In between some stacks of textbooks, about 4 feet south of the stairs, there was found a rifle. This is a bolt-action 6.5 caliber rifle, wooden stock and foregrip, steel butt plate, bearing a black leather sling, serial number C2766, made in Italy. The rifle has a 4x18 coated telescopic sight, trade name Ordnance Optics, Hollywood, California, 010 Japan, number 3 Japan, with a 3-leaf clover design on it with OSC inside the clover leaf design. When found, this rifle had one unfired shell in the chamber. A empty brass clip, and they stamped over here, was in the rifle, and the clip had SMI 952 on the side of the clip. Dallas PD Crime Lab has rifle, live shell, and 3 empty holes. Lieutenant Day is of wooden foregrip, has a good print on it. That's news to me. This rifle appears to be an old military type rifle, and the scope is an old scope with surface scratched and worn. Now, Lieutenant Day allegedly is saying here that he found a print on the foregrip that would be under the barrel, where your left arm or your left hand will be holding the rifle. Now, from what I understand, this rifle was sent to the FBI, where they didn't find any prints on it. And that after it was sent back to Dallas, they disassembled the rifle and found some kind of a palm print on the underside of the barrel. Yeah, very odd stuff. But again, found in this corner were 3 empty rifle holes, an empty Dr. Pepper bottle, an empty package of Viceroy cigarettes, 1 piece of fried chicken, and some chicken bones, along with a small brown paper sack that the chicken had been in, and some brown wrapping paper of the type used in this building, sealed with brown gummed paper, in which the rifle had apparently been wrapped in. So bear that in mind, folks, when it comes to this. A damn paper sack. Lieutenant Carl Day of the Dallas Police Department, again, stated he found the brown paper bag shaped like a gun case near the scene of the shooting on the 6th floor. He stated that the manager, Mr. Roy Truly, saw this bag at the time it was taken into possession by Lieutenant Day. Truly, according to Day, had not seen this bag before. Nobody else viewed it. Truly furnished similar brown paper from the roll that was used in packing books by the schoolbook depository. This paper was examined by the FBI lab and found not to be identical with the paper gun case found at the scene of the shooting. The Dallas police have not exhibited this to anyone else. It was immediately locked up by Day, kept in his possession until it was turned over to the FBI agent Drain for transmittal to the lab. It was examined by the lab, returned to the Dallas Police Department on November 24, 1963, and locked up in the crime lab. This bag was returned to Agent Drain on November the 26th and taken back to the FBI laboratory. Lieutenant Day stated no one has identified this bag to the police department. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. And then we get this. R.L. Studebaker, Crime Scene Search Section of the Identification Bureau of the Dallas Police Department. There's a tongue twister. Advised while making a crime scene search of the 6th floor of the schoolbook depository at 411 Elm Street on November 22nd, 1963, he found what appeared to be brown wrapping paper and tape in which a rifle may have been wrapped for concealment. This wrapping paper had been made up in the form of a bag and was found in the southeast corner, laying parallel to a brown cardboard box containing books, and from which a patent palm print had been obtained. The paper bag was lying in the 16-inch space between the cardboard box and the south wall, approximately 6 inches from the south wall. The bag was folded double with the open end on top, the open end facing the west and almost touching an iron pipe adjacent to the south wall. According to Studebaker, the paper bag was removed prior to taking photographs of the southeast corner. However, a close-up photograph taken of this corner is designated as Dallas Police Department photograph number 26. So here we have written statements from 2 Dallas police officers who independently claim that they are the ones that found the gun sack, the paper bag. Are you confused yet? I'm getting there. And this letter to FBI Dallas from J. Edgar Hoover, 12/13/63. Specimen Q10, which is the sack in which Oswald was reported to have transported the rifle into the schoolbook depository, was among the items personally delivered back to the lab on 11/27/63. In view of the importance of this case, the Bureau is tentatively holding this evidence pending a determination as to when it can be properly released. That's odd, don't you think? December 1st, 1963. Vincent Drain of the FBI puts this report in. Captain Will Fritz, Dallas, Texas Police Department, advised that he talked with Buell Wesley Frazier, and Frazier described the sack as about 2 feet in length and of brown paper. He advised that Frazier stated it was long enough to have contained curtain rods. Fritz asked Frazier if the curtain rods could have been heavy enough to have the same weight as the rifle. Frazier stated the sack was large enough that it could have contained enough curtain rods to weigh the same as a rifle. Now, in documents pertaining to Buell Frazier's alleged polygraph examination, under the polygraph, Frazier stated when they showed him the bag that it was not the same bag that Oswald had brought to work that day. That the bag that Oswald had looked like cheap dime store brown paper, and this was more of a heavy duty grocery sack type wrapping paper, if you will, shipping paper. So I don't know what bag they found. Okay. Because we talked about this on the show many, many times before about Buell Frazier, that you know, either he's lying about the length of the package, because you cannot break down a Carcano far enough uh, to have it be, somewhere around 2 feet to 28 inches. The wooden stock alone is longer than that. So whatever bag, if Frazier's telling the truth, that bag was never found in the school book depository. No curtain rods were ever found in the depository. Like I said, that bag was never found in the depository. Only this gigantic bag that Fraser said he didn't see, and it was a different quality paper. Well, let's go back to the issue of the elevators for a minute. Okay. Just when you thought you were safe, we're going to go back and we're going to get all kinds of befuddled again. This comes from a third decade article by Gordon Miller called The East West Elevators. Um, he states the activity of the east and west elevators at the rear of the schoolbook depository has always been confusing to me. Well, sir, you're not alone. The testimony of the employees of the Texas Schoolbook Depository has these elevators going up and down like a yo-yo, starting with Charles Gibbons riding down at 11:30 a.m. and ending with Jack Doherty riding down after hearing a gunshot at 12:30. The testimony of Bonnie Ray Williams is completely unbelievable. On November the 23rd, he tells the FBI that he only stayed 3 minutes on the sixth floor and then came down to the fifth floor via the stairs. Then on January 14th, he tells agents Carter and Griffin that he left the sixth floor at 12:05 p.m. via the west elevator. Later, he states that he ate his lunch at noon, stayed 5, 10, maybe 12 minutes, and then took the east elevator down to the fifth floor. So, Bonnie. First, he states that he left much earlier than he did before and took the stairs down. Then he states he stayed a little later and then took the west elevator down. Then he states, it might have been 12:15. Then I took the east elevator down to the fifth floor. Williams' testimony can best be summed up when he referred to his own memory. When asked how many shots were fired, he replied, I heard 3 shots. But at first I told the FBI that I only heard 2. Dirt. They took me down because I was excited and I couldn't remember too well. But later on, as everything began to die down, I got my memory even a little better than on the 22nd. It seems his testimony changes and his memory improves with time. It would be interesting to know just what he was doing and what his movements were between 11 and 12:30 p.m. on November the 22nd, 1963. Now, in his affidavit, which we read already, Williams never mentions going back to the sixth floor to eat his lunch. Why? Was his memory so bad that he couldn't remember where he ate his lunch that same day, but was able to 4 months later? That's a good point, Gordon. Charles Gibbons also signed an affidavit on November the 22nd. In it, he said that he worked up on the sixth floor until 11:30 a.m. Then he went downstairs and into the bathroom. At 12, he took his lunch period and went to the parking lot at Record and Elm. He says nothing about going back upstairs. If this affidavit is true, then Charles Gibbons couldn't have been in the elevator race to the first floor with the other employees at 11:50 a.m. And according to the testimony of all the employees on the sixth floor, no one really knows how Gibbons got to the first floor. Bonnie Ray Williams said that Gibbons took the east elevator down while he and 2 or 3 other fellows had the west elevator. Yet, according to Danny Arce, he and Bonnie Ray Williams and Billy Lovelady came down on the east elevator while Gibbons and the others were on the west one. Meanwhile, Lovelady told Joseph Ball that he rode with Williams on the west elevator. You can't make this shit up, folks. Gibbons, in his testimony on April 8, 1964, said that it was about 11:45 and we were on our way downstairs. He includes himself in the elevator race and said that he was on the elevator with Williams, Lovelady, and Arce, and that it was the east elevator. He discovers that he left his cigarettes in his jacket and goes back up to the sixth floor, encounters Oswald on the sixth floor, and then takes the east elevator down. So, from the previously mentioned testimony, you have Williams and Lovelady agreeing that they came down on the west elevator, but they don't include Gibbons. Danny Arce includes himself with Williams and Lovelady, but not Givens. No one places Givens on the same elevator with them during this race to the first floor. Is it because he was already down on the first floor, like he said in his affidavit of November 22nd, and never went back upstairs? If so, then his encounter with Oswald at 11:55 a.m. on the sixth floor is a complete fabrication. In Robert Hughes' 8mm movie film, we get to see the southeast corner of the schoolbook depository as the motorcade makes its left-hand turn from Houston onto Elm. James Jarman, Harold Norman, and Bonnie Ray Williams are, according to their testimony, waiting in windows to see the president. Jarman said he was in the fourth window from the east side of the fifth floor. Norman was in the first window, and Williams took the window next to Norman. They said they were in the windows about 11:25 or just before the motorcade arrived. The Hughes film was taken just seconds before the shooting. I do not see these three in any of the windows. That's interesting. In Norman's testimony, when being questioned by Ball, he couldn't remember if Williams was already on the fifth floor when he arrived. Quote, I know he was with us a period of time later. James Jarman, when questioned by Ball, said that he and Norman stood in front of the schoolbook depository until 12:20 or 12:25 p.m. James Jarman, when questioned by Ball, said that he and Norman stood in front of the schoolbook depository until 12:20 or 12:25. Also with them were Charles Givens and Danny Arce. He then said that he and Norman went around to the back of the building and took the west elevator up to the fifth floor. When asked by Ball if anyone was on the fifth floor when they arrived, he replied, no, sir. They took the west elevator because the east elevator was up on the sixth floor. When questioned by Gerald Ford, Jarman said he could see it was up on the sixth floor at about 12:25 or 12:28 p.m. Ford says, you got off the fifth floor. Yes, sir. As you rode the elevator, you noticed the other one was on the sixth floor. Jarman says, right, sir. So in this scenario, you have Norman and Jarman riding the west elevator to the fifth floor between 12:25 and 12:28. Upon arrival, according to Jarman's previous testimony, the east elevator is on the sixth floor and Bonnie Ray is not yet on the fifth floor. Then where in the hell is he? According to Williams' testimony, he ate his lunch at noon, stayed 5, 10, maybe 12 minutes, and took the east elevator down to the fifth floor. If so, he would have been on the fifth floor before Norman and Jarman arrived. Also, the east elevator would have been on the fifth floor and not on the sixth floor when Norman and Jarman arrived, yet Jarman insists that it isn't. Jack Doherty told Ball that he took the east elevator to the fifth floor. If this is true, then he had to go to the fifth floor before noon because Williams had taken the east elevator to the sixth floor to eat his lunch, and there it stayed until Williams brought it down to the fifth floor. Doherty also says that after he heard a shot, he came back down on the west elevator. This fits into Roy Truly's testimony. When Truly and Officer Baker ran into the schoolbook depository, he said that both elevators were on the fifth floor. They ran into Oswald on the second floor, and when they reached the fifth floor, the east elevator was there and the west one was gone. They rode the east elevator to the seventh floor. Yet Doherty, who said he immediately took the west elevator when he heard a shot, never saw Williams, Jarman, or Norman on the fifth floor. Is Doherty merely confused, or are the other three lying? How could Oswald be aiming his rifle at the president from the sixth floor window when Williams could not have possibly left the sixth floor until 12:28 p.m.? During all this hustle and bustle of the elevators, Oswald is seen by a fellow employee and his supervisor on the first floor. Eddie Piper saw Oswald at noon on the first floor and spoke to him. Well, I said to him, it's about lunchtime. I believe I'll go and have lunch. So he says, yeah. He mumbled something. I don't know whether he said he was going up or going out. So I got my sandwich off the radiator and went back to the first window on the first floor. Also, William Shelley said Lee Harvey Oswald worked under my supervision, and he was at work when I arrived for work at 8 a.m. I specifically recall seeing Oswald on the first floor around 11:50 this day. He was going about his regular duties, filling orders at that time. This certainly contradicts the elevator riders who say that they heard Oswald shouting for an elevator to ride down on at 11:50. I don't believe this incident ever took place. It seemed that this story was developed at a later date to take the investigation away from Norman, Jarman, Williams, and Gibbons. They might not have done it deliberately, but changing their stories from one interview to the next with the FBI and the Warren Commission all had a part in placing Oswald in the sniper's nest. It seems to me that the fifth floor of the schoolbook depository holds many more secrets than that of the sixth floor, and I believe it is like Pandora's box, with Bonnie Ray Williams being the key, but the lock has held for 30 years and continues to keep us from the evil within. Damn good article, Gordon. Gordon Miller, third decade. The FBI re-interviewed Bill Shelley on May 26th of 64. William Shelley, manager of the Miscellaneous Department of the Texas Schoolbook Depository Building, advised that on November the 22nd, that's the hell of, I am the manager of the Miscellaneous Department, stated that he observed Charles Gibbons, a warehouseman employed by the Schoolbook Depository, eating a sandwich on the sixth floor of the Schoolbook Depository Building before the morning work break, which was about 10 a.m. Shelley stated he later learned from Bonnie Ray that he, Williams, had eaten fried chicken on the sixth floor of the Schoolbook Depository Building around noon on November 22nd, 1963. Shelley stated that after Williams had eaten the chicken, he left the chicken bones, some wax paper, and a brown paper bag where he had eaten the chicken. Shelley stated that according to his recollection, the police officer found these items on the sixth floor, 3 double windows away from the southeast corner of the building. Shelley stated that he also believes the soft drink bottle the police officers found was either sitting on a box or on the window sill near the chicken bones. Well, that certainly does not help, Bill Shelley. Thank you. Thank you for nothing, sir. So, they also go back and talk to Bonnie Ray Williams again on May 26, 1964, because none of this shit's adding up. Williams advised that on November 22nd, 1963, he left home as usual between 7:20 and 7:30 and arrived at 7:50. He said he began work at 8 a.m. and on that date was assigned to help put down 5 8-inch plywood over the existing floor on the sixth floor of the Schoolbook Depository Building. He stated in putting down the plywood, it was necessary to move stock as the work progressed, thus creating a sniper's nest for those in the back. Williams advised they stopped working on the sixth floor between 11:30 and 12 for lunch. He said it was at this time that he went down to the first floor to wash before eating his lunch. He said he picked up his lunch, which was in the quote domino room, which is a break room on the first floor, and returned with his lunch to the sixth floor where he intended to watch the motorcade. Williams advised that according to his recollection, he took up a position at the third double window from the southeast corner of the building. Williams said his lunch consisted of several pieces of fried chicken, some bread, and a package of Fritos. He also said he drank a bottle of Dr. Pepper while he ate his lunch. Williams advised to the best of his recollection he completed his lunch between 12 and 12:15 and left the chicken bones, some wax paper, and a brown bag on the floor by the window where he consumed his lunch. He said he also left his Dr. Pepper bottle sitting on a box in the same location. Williams advised that when he heard voices coming from the floor below, and since there apparently was no one else on the sixth floor with him, he decided to go down to the fifth floor to view the parade with other employees. Williams advised he did not see or hear Lee Oswald on the sixth floor, at this time, but added that because of the position of the boxes, he would not have been able to see from his location. I highly doubt that. If you're perched near the third window over, you definitely are going to know, especially if you're up there for 20 minutes or so eating your lunch, your chicken, your Fritos, drinking your Dr. Pepper, smoking a couple cigs, that at some point you're going to hear something if somebody is hiding like 10 feet away from you. You'd think. And Bonnie Ray, why are you leaving all your fucking trash everywhere, you fucking slob? Pick your shit up and throw it in the trash can. Why would you leave all your trash and shit laying around like that? I mean, it would seem to me that maybe somebody told Bonnie Ray to get the hell off the sixth floor in a hurry. And I doubt it was Oswald. Just saying. Because normally, when you eat your lunch, you throw your shit in the trash can. You throw your stuff away. You don't just leave it laying around. Work. I mean, if my guys did that here at work, they'd definitely be hearing about it. Don't leave your trash laying around. Throw that shit in the garbage can when you're done. What's wrong with you? Especially back in 1963 when you had all your white bosses running around and you're working with one of your white bosses on the sixth floor laying plywood floor. You're not going to leave your trash laying around. Uh, that's just most likely wouldn't happen. James Jarman Jr., also known as Junior, advised he is employed as a checker at the school book depository. He said he and Harold Hank Norman and Bonnie Ray Williams were all employed at the TSB in Dallas, Texas on November the 22nd, 1963. He said that he and the other two boys ate lunch on the first floor around noon on November the 22nd, 1963, and shortly after went to the fifth floor at about 12:25 p.m. on the west elevator in the building in order to watch the presidential parade. He said they stayed there until they heard the sound of shots when they went downstairs. He said Ray and Norman were with him all the time he was on the first floor, and they did not see Lee Harvey Oswald at any time between noon until they returned to the first floor after the shooting. So apparently, they saw Lee Harvey Oswald on the first floor after the shooting. Jarman advised Norman is no longer employed at the TSBD, but he thinks he still resides at 4858 Beulah. Now, this statement was given to the FBI on January the 14th, 1964, and we know it's a lie. He said that him and Bonnie Ray Williams and Hank Norman ate lunch on the first floor around 12 noon, and then shortly afterwards went to the fifth floor at 12:25 p.m. That is a blatant lie, because we know Williams was on the sixth floor eating his lunch by himself, allegedly, at that time. So why would Jarman lie? Why? And then we have this erroneous quote from Bonnie Ray Williams. Quote, that time Oswald was on the sixth floor on the east side of the building. I did not pay particular attention to what he was doing. Now, this quote can be taken out of context, but it applies. Apparently, Oswald was on the sixth floor getting books while the other guys were up there laying the floor at some point. at some point. Now, most of you folks out there, if you're a student of the case, have seen the Dillard photo where you can clearly see these three fellas on the fifth floor. But this photo was not taken until 5 or 10 minutes after the assassination. We have no photographic or video references of these three guys on the fifth floor at the time of the shooting, which is intriguing to me. On March the 19th, 1964, Bonnie was interviewed again by special agents of the FBI. I, Bonnie Ray Williams, freely furnished the following voluntary statement to Eugene Petrakis and A. Raymond Switzer, who have identified themselves to me as special agents of the FBI. I am a Negroid male, and I was born September 3rd, 1943 in Carthage, Texas. I reside at 1502 Avenue B, Apartment B, Dallas, Texas, and I've been employed as a checker by the Texas School Book Depository since early September 63. On November the 22nd, 1963, I, along with Harold Hank Norman and James Earl Jarman Jr., both of whom are also employed by the School Book Depository, were on the fifth floor of the depository looking out the windows, waiting for the presidential motorcade. We were at the windows, which are located at about the center of the building on the south side. As the presidential motorcade passed, I heard 3 shots, which sounded like they came directly above me. At first, I thought the noises I heard were firecrackers. I looked up when little pieces of cement hit me on the head, but I saw no one. I did not know that President Kennedy had been shot. When I saw all of the confusion on the street below, I ran to the west end of the building to get a better view. Hank and Junior, who were on the floor with me, also ran to the west end of the building. While we were standing at the west end of the building on the fifth floor, a police officer came up on the elevator and looked all around the fifth floor and left the floor. I did not see anyone come down from the sixth floor via the stairs. So, Bonnie Ray is saying, while we were standing at the west end of the building on the fifth floor, this is right after shots were fired, they ran to the west end of the building. A police officer came up on the elevator and looked all around the fifth floor and left the floor. Apparently didn't see these guys, didn't say anything to these guys. Okay. Quote, the last time I saw Lee Harvey Oswald on November 22nd was at 11:40 a.m. It was at that time Oswald was on the sixth floor on the east side of the building. I did not pay particular attention to what he was doing. I did not observe any strangers in the depository building on the morning of the day the president was assassinated. Shortly after 1 p.m. on the day, I accompanied a police officer down to City Hall for questioning. At about 3:30 p.m., I left City Hall and went home. I did not return to the depository building that day. I have read this statement consisting of this and 2 other pages. I have initialed these pages, each correction, and it is true to the best of my knowledge and belief. I tell you, folks, the story just keeps getting better and better. Better and better. I've read that one. And we've read that one. So now we've heard some of the scuttlebutt. We've heard from the 3 black guys. We've heard from Roy Truly and Bill Shelley. And they mentioned this guy, Jack Doherty. Let's see what Jack Doherty said on November the 22nd, 1963. I, Jack Edwin Doherty, make the following free and voluntary statement to agents of the FBI, blah, 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 James Anderson, who have identified themselves as special agents of the FBI. I am an employee of the School Book Depository, 411 Elm Street, Dallas, Texas, as an order filler and reside at 1827 South Marcellus Street, Dallas, Texas. I started to work today at about 7 a.m. o'clock. I recall vaguely having seen Lee Oswald, who started to work for the school book depository about 3 weeks ago, when he came to work at about 8 a.m. today. I saw Oswald again at about 11 a.m. today, and do not recall seeing him at work after 11 a.m. I was working on the fifth floor of the building at 411 Elm Street at about 12:45 and or 1 p.m. when I heard a loud explosion which sounded like a rifle shot coming from the next floor above me. I did not see anyone running from the building and did not see anyone fire the shot that I heard. I have read this statement and this is true. Jack Edwin Doherty. Now, maybe we got the times a little off. Did he get the entire floor that he was on off? I don't know. But see, we have Jack Doherty placing himself on the fifth floor at the time of the shots. We also have Harold Norman, Junior Jarman, and Bonnie Ray Williams placing themselves on the fifth floor at the time of the shots. But neither of these guys see each other, or hear each other, or run into each other. You know, we have Bonnie Williams stating that a police officer came up to the fifth floor on an elevator after the shots. So it's all so maddening, folks. All so maddening. And just when he thought it couldn't get more confusing, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Jack Doherty recalls only vaguely seeing Oswald at approximately 8 a.m., but recalls definitely having seen Oswald at about 11 a.m. Does not recall having seen Oswald at work subsequent to approximately 11 a.m. Did not see Oswald enter building. Danny Arce advised he saw Oswald at approximately 11:50 a.m. November 22nd on the fifth floor of the building near the elevators. This was the last time Arce observed Oswald in the building as Arce left for lunch at 11:50 a.m. Witness Billy Nolan Lovelady, co-worker of suspect Lee Harvey Oswald, observed Oswald on the fifth floor of the school book depository building at about 11:50 a.m. Following the shooting, Oswald not observed again by Lovelady. So these two guys, Danny Arce and Billy Lovelady, must have rode the elevator from the sixth floor down and saw Oswald on the fifth floor near the elevators. Bill Shelley observed Oswald at work on the first floor of that building sometime between 11:45 and noon. But during that time, Oswald was on the fifth floor. Oswald works under Shelley, but Oswald did not request, and Shelley did not give permission for Oswald to leave work early on November 22 last. Charles Givens worked on the sixth floor until about 11:30 a.m. He left at this time, going down on the elevator. He saw Oswald on the fifth floor. As he left going down, Oswald told him to close the gates on the elevator when he got to the first floor so Oswald could signal for the elevator later. Given stayed on the first floor until 12 o'clock and then walked out of the building to watch the parade pass. Oswald was reading a paper in the first floor domino room at 7:50 a.m. when Gibbons came into work. Bonnie Ray Williams knew Oswald as Lee, saw him at about 11:30 on the fifth floor. At 12 noon, Williams rode up on the elevator from the first floor to the sixth floor where he had been working all morning. He spent about 3 minutes there, okay, and then walked down to the fifth floor. You can't make this stuff up. Uh, let's see. States was on the second floor of the same building, having just purchased a Coke when Dallas police officer came with a pistol and asked if he worked there. Took the Coke down to the first floor and ate lunch in the employee lunchroom. Then went outdoors for 5 to 10 minutes with Bill Shelley, the foreman. Oswald states that he left work because of the opinion based on remarks of Bill Shelley that because of the confusion in the building resulting from search by Dallas PD, that there was not going to be any work the rest of the day. Stated that his regular work hours are from 8 to 4. However, business does not have a time clock. His usual place of employment is on the first floor, but he frequently goes to the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh to get books, which was occasion on November 22nd last. After leaving building, he went to residence at 1026 North Beckley by bus and changed his trousers and made his way to the Texas Theater. So interesting that this FBI report has Oswald saying that after Truly and Baker encountered him on the second floor buying a Coke, he went down to the first floor and ate lunch in the employee lunchroom or the domino room. Then went outdoors for 5 to 10 minutes with Bill Shelley, the foreman. Oswald states he left work because of the opinion based on remarks of Bill Shelley that because of the confusion in the building resulting from search by Dallas PD that there was not going to be any work the rest of the day. Now, so Shelley states that this conversation never took place, never happened. So what in the Sam hell is going on? Uh, you know, it's just mind boggling. Mind boggling, folks. Where the hell were these guys? Where the hell was Doherty? Where the hell was Oswald? What the hell is going on here in this school book depository? It's like we've entered into the multiverse of madness where all these people can be all these different places and the elevators can do magical things and nobody sees anybody. People get invisible. People change their story 20,000 times. Why? Why would you change your story? You can't remember where you ate lunch that day? I mean, you're not that flummoxed. What in the Sam hell is going on here in the school book depository on this day? I don't know. After reading all that shit and trying to put it into a box, I still have no fucking idea what in the hell is going on at all. Finally, to try and tie this all in a neat little bow, I figured I would share with you uh, something I've never seen before. And it is a survey made at the school book depository by the FBI in an effort to determine the time required to go from the window on the sixth floor, where it is believed the shots were fired in the assassination, to the front door of the school book depository building. Several methods of travel were utilized in this survey, and the travel was done at a fast walk, except in areas where an individual would have walked at a normal pace as to not arouse suspicion. The following results were obtained from the methods of travel described, and this was done uh, on November the 29th, 1963. So, scenario number one, which is walking from the window on the sixth floor to the stairway, walking down stairway to the first floor, and walking from stairway to the front door, is 1 minute, 45 seconds. Now, while they're leaving out, going to the second floor, where allegedly, the second floor lunchroom encounter occurred, is their official story. Now, I'm like Bart. I'm not a fan of the second floor lunchroom encounter scenario. But interesting that they leave it out totally from their official FBI re recreations here, so that they're not accounting. So I don't even know why they're doing this if they're not putting in the second floor lunchroom encounter, because this means nothing because it's not in there. They're saying if somebody walked from the sixth floor to the front door, this is the quickest way. Is walking straight down the stairway to the first floor, walking from the stairway to the front door. You can do it in 1 minute, 45 seconds. Scenario 2. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to the freight elevator, which was on the sixth floor, and riding the freight elevator to the first floor, and walking from the freight elevator to the front door. This can be done in 1 minute, 54 seconds. Scenario 3. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to the freight elevator, calling the freight elevator from the first floor to the sixth floor, and riding the freight elevator from the sixth floor to the first floor, and walking from the freight elevator to the front door. Now you're up at 2 minutes, 33 seconds. Scenario 4. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to the stairway, walking down the stairway to the fourth floor, walking from stairway to passenger elevator, which was on the fourth floor, riding the passenger elevator to the first floor, and walking to front door. You're back down to 1 minute, 46 seconds. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to stairway, walking down stairway to fourth floor, walking from stairway to fourth floor to passenger elevator, calling passenger elevator from the first floor to the fourth floor, riding passenger elevator down to the first floor, and walking to the front door. You're at 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Scenario 6. Walking from the window to the stairway, walking down the stairway to the second floor. Oh, here we go. Walking on second floor from stairway to lunchroom, spending 30 seconds in the lunchroom, and then walking to the front stairway and walking downstairs to the first floor, and then walking to the front door. You're at 2 minutes, 25 seconds. If it's accurate that Oswald only spent 30 seconds in the lunchroom, allegedly. Scenario 7. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to the freight elevator, which was on the sixth floor, riding freight elevator to second floor, walking to lunchroom, spending 30 seconds in lunchroom, walking to the front stairway, down stairway to first floor, and then walking to front door. You're up to 2 minutes, 52 seconds. Scenario 8, sorry. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to the freight elevator, calling the elevator from the first floor to the sixth floor, riding the elevator to the second floor, walking to the lunchroom, 30 seconds in the lunchroom, walking from the lunchroom to the front stairs, down the stairs, and to the front door. You're up to 3 minutes, 31 seconds. Scenario 9. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to the stairway, down the stairway to the fourth floor, walking from the stairway to the passenger elevator, riding passenger elevator to the second floor, walking from passenger elevator to the lunchroom, spending 30 seconds in, walking from lunchroom to stairway, down stairway, and walking to the front door. You're still up around 3 minutes, 26 seconds. Scenario 10. Walking from the window on the sixth floor to the stairway, down to the fourth floor, walking from the stairway to the passenger elevator, calling the passenger elevator from the first floor to the fourth floor, riding an elevator from fourth floor to second floor, walking from elevator to lunchroom, 30 seconds in lunchroom, walking from lunchroom to front stairs and downstairs, walking to the front door. You're up to almost 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 49 seconds. from the interview of witnesses and the position where the gun used in the assassination was located, which was in the general vicinity of the door entrance to the stairway on the 6th floor, it appears that Lee Harvey Oswald possibly walked from the window on the 6th floor to the stairway, walked down the stairway to the 2nd floor, walked to the lunchroom where he spent an unknown amount of time, estimated at 30 seconds, then walked from the lunchroom to the front stairs, down the front stairs, and then walked to the front door, which, as set forth above, took 2 minutes, 25 seconds approximately. So, all of that doesn't mean jack shit when it comes to figuring out where in the hell these elevators were at the time of the assassination and who was on them, what floor they were stuck on, who rode them when, who was where, who was doing what. And after all this, we still have no freaking clue. So, sorry to waste your life for an hour and a half that you're never going to get back. But that's what we do here at the Lone Gunman Podcast. At least you got to spend it with me. And that's all that matters. Because I love you. And I know you love me. Thanks for listening to the show. We're almost to the epic 200th episode of the Lone Gunman Podcast. Thanks for tuning in as always. Follow me on Twitter at the Lone Gunman 7. Yeah. On Facebook, just search for the Lone Gunman Podcast Facebook page. And on YouTube, feel free to find the Lone Gunman Podcast channel and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. And all of you leaving nasty comments can go fuck yourselves. How about that? Anyway, as always, this is your boy. Peace.